it has a paper texture. You can see that right there. But my background didn't have enough watercolor texture. So a lot of times my last layer or my top layer in a file will be just a little bit more watercolor texture. Or sometimes if I'm using the printmaking style, it'll be a printmaking texture. And you can
now, just to be clearly, there's no watercolor paper or watercolor medium that was used to make this image at all.
No, this is totally digital. Totally digital.
That's incredible. Hello, everybody, and welcome to 3 Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Jake Parker.
I'm Lee White.
And I'm Will Terry. And all three of us are professional illustrators. We've all illustrated for all the major publishers in the business. Together, we've all published somewhere around 50 children's books, 75 children's books. And we've all taught illustration at university art programs.
That is correct. Each week we come at you guys with different listener questions or fantastic interviews. Sometimes we argue, sometimes we agree, but every time you're going to learn something brand spanking new.
Brand spanking new. And today we have questions from our patrons. This is a patron 3PP hotline episode. So if you've got a question, you're going to get it answered today if you put it in our Patreon I don't want to say the chat. It's the comments on the post that we did for questions. So let's just get right down to it. Question number one, or first victim here is Nada Serafimovic. That's not used to that last name, but how can we get a portfolio review from you guys is what they asked. So let's look up Nada's. I was looking at Nada's portfolio just before we got together today. And I have it loaded up here. I'm going to just share my screen.
And by the way, I know her from YouTube because she's talked and Facebook and stuff. And so we've talked a bunch of times and messaged, and she's a very serious student, illustrator.
Cool. So you go to Nada's website, and it says, I'm an illustrator. I'm an independent freelance artist with 10 plus years of experience. And we see this movie running in the background. So there's big, bold letters. And there's like a film close-up shots of Nada working on painting and stuff. Scroll down. We get an about section. We get a follow me on YouTube. We get an order the book by Nada. And then I don't know if this website's finished or not because I'm not seeing actual artwork and I'm having trouble finding the button to click on.
Wait, did you keep going down? Because there's underneath.
Whoops. Yeah, I kept scrolling down there. It was just, I don't know if the page was fully loaded or.
Oh, your page must not load it because mine is showing the portfolio just after that book.
Okay, good. Because I was worried. I'm like, this website's giving me problems. Do you want to share your screen? Because it's like, for whatever reason, it's not loading for me.
All right. So I'm sharing the screen right now. This is the portfolio section. So it's just under that book. So you were able to see this, right, Jake?
No, I didn't even see the book.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. Oh, you saw this? Order the book?
Yeah, I saw that. So I saw the description of the book, but I didn't see the image of the book.
Okay, so she's got a cool little kind of a walkthrough page, like a page turn with audio. It's like you guys probably can't hear that, but when I click the arrow, it sounds like the pages are turning. That's pretty. That's a pretty fun way to look at the book. Okay, so if I keep scrolling down, we do finally get to the portfolio. That's the first critique that I want to do before we even get into the artwork. I feel like we had to dig a bit to see the work. And so I think those orders, if this is a Squarespace website, which it probably is, I would just switch those orders and get that portfolio up top.
Exactly. I don't think you even need to say that what you are. I think it's if anybody's coming to your website, they've already done the search terms, illustrator, children's books, professional. If they're coming by it randomly, they're not going to accidentally stumble on your page and not have any idea what it is. So they're going to know you're some sort of illustrator who has experience, and judging by your art, looks like professional experience.
Go back to the top, Lee.
So go straight to the artwork, and if someone's coming there because you sent them there, you've already introduced yourself to them, so they don't need to. It's like you want to get them straight to what they're there for, and that's to see your work.
Yeah. Yeah, I like
It's
seeing
neat to
that
have that
stuff.
video. I like the video. It's a little dark.
Well, because it has to highlight the type, and that's what I was going to say. Is that video is amazing. I want to see it
Yeah.
outside the area of
But
the type.
well, and they could be lighter and still highlight the type.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would say put that underneath the work.
Yep. We need to see the work first and foremost. Let's talk a little bit about the work. Do you guys have any first hit kind of thoughts on it?
Looking at it, she's got I would say like a linear style. There's like a lot of line work going on in there. Good handle on color. And I'd say pretty good line control too. I don't think this kind of stuff here, the more painterly approach is as strong as her line work and color approach.
So I think there's a way to in the children's book style to have more line and also a little bit more. There needs to be more academic drawing skills. Like with go back to the that one. So in drawing that, it's basically a lizard dinosaur kind of creature. The pose, like Jake, if you were to rework this, or if we were to do a draw over, we'd change the pose a lot and the anatomy, and that's probably the thing that sticks out the most on here that needs work. The figure is a lot more convincing than the main character animal.
The human figure.
And it's done just in enough of a realistic style where, I mean, I would never confuse this with photorealism, so I'm not going there, but it's done realistically enough in terms of lighting and weight and pose and all that stuff that you guys see the lizard and her are on a one plane, and then about around the back feet, the floor plane just tips right up to like a ski hill. And so, you got to get those things right. If you're going to be kind of funky with the perspective, there needs to be funkiness everywhere. It needs to be intentional. And so that doesn't, stuff like that, I think kind of betrays, because like this next scene, which is also from the same book, is totally convincing in terms of the space.
I gotta say too, kids these days know like every dinosaur fact. They all check out the dinosaur books. They know, the front and back of a dinosaur, and so this is a T-Rex. And just you gotta get one of the things right, and that T-Rex don't have thumbs and they don't have 3, fingers. Like they have 2 like little claw things. And so I just feel like it's such a nitpick note, but I feel like that's just going to save you 20 emails from, 8-year-olds using their mom's email address saying, your T-Rex has 3 fingers. That's an Allosaurus. It's not a...
Yeah.
I think she's been doing it long enough. I'm going to give a kind of a broad statement, is I feel like there's some specificity in how she's making the marks, but it still feels a little generic to me. The style doesn't feel locked down. I guess that's what I feel like. And I don't know why. I don't know how to remedy that per se, but do you guys feel that?
Yeah, some pieces are stronger than others, Like this one is stronger than, go back to the upper right, the dream book. So I'm just looking at the cover. Oh, it takes a second to load. Yeah, which is way more painterly, and I feel like it lacks the control. It's painterly in places that it needs more control, and controlled in places that aren't as important.
Yeah,
and that's something that happens.
This is, the underlying problem here is you really got to lean into your strengths and what you're good at, and you might not even know it until you have an outside eye look at it. And the color is good, the line work is good, but the sort of the rendering, the hyper rendered painting type of approach here still is just lacking, I would say. So and that doesn't mean you can't work on that and get there. But I think to get professional work and to be and to get consistent work, you really got to put the stuff that you're good at front and center, and wait until you're better at the more painterly stuff before you, I think, showcase it like that. I don't know. That's kind of like tough love type of thing, but
I think the best piece is this one to me, and it's because she's using all the strength. The color in a lot of the pieces tends to get away from her. That, like, basically it's kind of a rainbow sort of assortment. It's every color, and so you don't get much focus. But this we're looking at a magazine cover right now, and it's got really beautiful toned line work into this like dark kind of turquoise, but the whole piece is analogous to these blues and greens, and it really, really looks fantastic. This is the best piece in the whole group, in my opinion.
So that shows like all, like that's the potential that every piece can be. Like you hold up every piece and put it next to that and see where does it lack? Where does it
because
falter?
like if I click this one, not even the same artist. It doesn't even seem like the same
compositions,
the same work.
lopsided,
the colors all over the place. It looks a little more like childlike compared to the sophisticated. This looks whimsical and fun, but it doesn't look like a kid drew it. It looks it looks gorgeous. So this is your mark. And it's great to have those pieces because like they're just saying, like, that's your mark. That's your high water mark.
I
And
mean,
so
I do that too.
that.
I'll put up a piece that I did that I'm really proud of and just have it up so I can remind myself, you can do this.
Right. Here's the potential. It's less effective. The more she draws, the less effective it becomes. Look, like this face is so overly rendered. So where do you simplify and control? The more colors you add, the less it works. The more detail you add, the less it works. Unless you control that like you did here. So there's a goal to shoot for, I think. I think you just got to rein it in, figure out what marks you want to make and control it a little bit more.
Yeah. All right. Should we do the next one?
Yep.
Well, let's chat 1 second. So we are starting our finally portfolio reviews at SVSLearn, and we are starting that with our patrons, and that's going to be started within the month. We have 4 or 5 teachers on tap, and those are going to be launched soon. We're going to announce it to you guys before anybody else gets it. So that's coming up. If you do want a critique, that's going to be part of the options.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Our next one comes from Lucas. He's Lucas Damgaard. He's a Copenhagen-based illustrator, 31 years old, and been working professionally for 13 years and is now also moving into the animation industry. So here's his predicament. He wants to write and illustrate his own stories, but he's been procrastinating for years by learning one craft after another, writing, painting, drawing, along with 3D fundamentals and animation. He says, I could see a pattern here, and I know I'll just keep studying the crafts in order to avoid putting myself out there and tell my stories. So how can we overcome our fears and cultivate the courage to create what we are here to do? With a link to his portfolio. And that actually goes right along with, if you scroll down on the comments, there's another question from Jeremy Thomas. He says, when's the right time to stop obsessing over technique and find your own artistic expression? And that's really good. Like, that's a good topic, because there's safety in learning, because you're essentially getting hand-fed what you need to do step by step when you're going through tutorials, when you're learning the craft, like you're learning a new program like Blender, how to do modeling in 3D. You go through all the Blender tutorials, and you just make, you make the donut, the 3D donut, you make the 3D sword in the stone, and you get all the things, and you're learning. And if you ever stray a little bit, you can just look at the thing that you're trying to do and see where you're off. And it's the same with watercolor, taking all the lessons through watercolor and character design and stuff like that. Now, what happens, and why you're afraid to go like venture out into the unknown, it's because there's so many ways it can go sideways, so many ways it can go wrong. And the nervousness and the anxiety that comes with that is real, And I know that feeling. And my advice to you is to start small with a very concise, like, finishable project. Now, that could be, I want to come up with a print that I can sell in my shop, or I want to come up with a 5-page story. Doesn't have to be a full children's book. Just has to be a 5-page. Once upon a time, this happened, and this happened because of it. And this is sort of your stepping stone. So you get this this sort of feedback loop of, I made a thing, I finished it, I got feedback on it, I know that, and I think the other part of this is know that you want to do these in succession. Like, as soon as you finish one, the next month, I'm going to do another one. The next month, I'm going to do another one. And if you set up this pattern, whether you could do it, I'm going to do it daily, or I'm going to do it monthly, or I'm going to do it every week, even if you mess up on it, you've got another one coming right behind it the next week or the next month. And you could just, take the mistakes that you learn from and apply it to the next thing. So I think the solution to this is small, finishable projects that you can then present and show and share or sell or whatever. What do you guys think?
I just want to add to that. Sorry, Lee. Lucas looks young. And if you look at any professional author, illustrator, they've got, if you see their first stories, he's talking about writing stories. You see the first ones. I know, Jake, you were like writing stories when you were a kid, right?
Yeah.
Like comics and stuff.
Yep.
And they're awful. They're great for the age that you're at, but they're awful in terms of, like, comparing them to the best stuff that's ever been done in the world, right? And and the thing that is the toughest to work through for artists is to get through, like, to keep going as you are doing work that doesn't measure up to your vision. And if you can take what you learn, take the small failures, or some things can be successes and failures at the same time, but you take them, you learn from them, you grow, and every time you put out something new, it's a little bit better. It's a little bit better. It's a little bit better. And all of us, if we go back to our original stuff, like, I'm embarrassed. Like I've shown some of my early work on my YouTube channel, and I'm like, almost as an exercise for growth, to be able to be comfortable with who I was, and to let people see that it's not just an Instagram life that we live in, where we just show only our best stuff, and to be comfortable with the fact that we came from somewhere. And but if you do that, you have to start. You have to start, like Jake said, start small and just keep working, keep putting stuff out. And eventually you will look back and go, I can't believe I'm here. That's what I'm doing. I can't believe I'm where I'm at right now. I just can't believe it sometimes. Yeah,
that's good. That's good. I'm taking a look at his work right now. And so to add to what Will's saying there, I mean, you definitely got to start, but you need to pick what path you're on. Looking at the work on his Instagram page, it's competent, but it all looks like a start, and then, okay, I'm done with that. Now what am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to pick this thing way over here, and I'm going to do this, and it's totally different than the first thing. And then okay, finish that. Okay, now what? I'm going to go over here, and not even finish that. They all look like studies, sort of, but they are so wildly different. You got to pick what path you're going on. My analogy would be like, if I'm going to go on a hike, I can't do all the hikes. I got to pick one, and it needs to be a linear path.
Right.
Go ahead, Jake.
I keep thinking of Bill Watterson, who did Calvin and Hobbes, right? And you look at every other comic strip prior to him, and it was, you look at Peanuts, or you look at, I don't know, Heathcliff, you look at Garfield, and pretty much you have these almost cookie cutter comic strips where it's a gag at the end, the same round of characters doing the same thing over and over, and there really isn't much change in perspective or characters or subject matter. And then along comes Calvin Hobbes, and Calvin has this amazing imagination. And if you look at Bill Watterson's background, he was doing editorial cartoons prior to that, right? Which, when you do editorial cartoons, it's based on whatever's happening in the news, right? And so someday you're drawing one day it's a politician. You got to do a politician caricature. The next day you're doing, a critique on a war in Iraq or something like that, right? So there's all this breadth, and I think he craved the variety that came with that. And doing a daily comic strip is something very monotonous, and it's the same thing over and over. But if you look at what he did, is he brought some of that variety into Calvin Hobbes. So Calvin has this amazing imagination. Some days he's a dinosaur. I guarantee Watterson was like, I don't want to draw Calvin today. I can't draw this boy and tiger one more time. Shoot, I'm going to do dinosaurs today. And the next Sunday, it's he's imagining he's on an alien planet and he's drawing aliens that day. And the next, there's all this breadth of style, from super realistic like film noir that you've seen in some of the strips to just the goofiest stuff, to just the regular, like, I'm tired, all I have in me is to draw this boy and this tiger, and I'm just going to do, a really simple strip. So I think that's kind of if you have that mindset, like, I have all of these desires. I like painting, I like 3D modeling, I like doing life drawing, but I also like doing zany character designs, is maybe you come up with some sort of world project, comic strip, something in that vein where it allows you to do the same thing over and over, but you can experiment and fold it into that from one time or another. I think children's books is a great thing there. You can shift styles from time to time, and as long as it, some artists, illustrators, like, really have it dialed in a certain style, and that's what they're known for, and they're having success, and it's really detrimental that they change, that they don't change styles. But I think you have other illustrators who are like Chris Van Allsburg, who, it's going to be pastels one day, it's going to be, pencil rendering for another book, it's going to be oils for another book. I think the thread that strings them all together, it feels like Chris Van Allsburg is like the tone and the mood. So find something. I guess the short answer is find something where it's consistent, but I think caters to this need that you have to, like, explore still.
That's good advice.
Perfect.
All right. Next one is Mark Robinson. This year's my goal is to completely support my family through my art. Wow, that's a good goal. Reaching out to publishers is one part, but I want to sell my own prints as well. I'm struggling to build a social media following on Instagram. Is it even realistic these days to build a decent fan base organically? And then with a link to his Instagram website. Looking at his art, you guys, and looking at, I want to see how many followers he has here. Just shy of 1,000. 800 something. This is a Critique Arena contributor with what was it? Glow. He did that glow one with the alligator and the glowing things. Was he sandbagging, or did he make it for Critique Arena? We may never know.
He made it because he's showing the drawing at the same time that he made it.
All right. Well, he did win, didn't he? He
did. Yeah.
Yeah. So just looking at it, to describe his style, if you're listening to this, it's very illustrative. It's almost like it's got a Justin Gerard flavor to it.
Definitely,
he likes fantasy.
The Justin Gerard influence there.
Yeah, he's got definitely a thing about fantasy, character design. Okay, so the question is, how do I grow on Instagram? Nobody's gonna have more than 100,000 followers with only 36 posts. So that's one thing, is your follower to post ratio is is about on par, right? If you look at all the top accounts, they have posted thousands of pictures over years, right? And I get there to some degree. There was a time where you could go on Instagram, post pretty frequently. There wasn't a ton of competition on there, and you got a lot of followers. I still think it's possible to do that today if you have a unique style. You post daily if you want to grow it in a year, and if you want to grow it to 10,000 in a year or something like that, you definitely have to get on a daily posting schedule or 5 days a week or something like that. The other tactic that works is, and this is the hardest part, is how do you balance the marketing with the making, right? How do you balance those two things? If the goal is to grow your Instagram account, you go on any account that has 100,000 followers or more, and you set up notifications so that you're notified right when they post. And when they post, you have a thoughtful comment that is not just, "Oh, that's fire," with a fire emoji, but it's like, "Oh, it could be, if it's witty, is really helpful, or if it's introspective or something," so that the person following you, or the person who just posted that, the way the way it works is they usually post, and for the next hour they're checking to see if that post is getting likes, if it's getting comments, and they're most likely going to read your comment then instead of 10 hours later or the next day. And so if they like your comment, they're going to put a little heart next to it, and your comment's going to float to the top, and more people are going to see it. And if you consistently do this on these big accounts, what happens is people are like, "Who's this person that has all these thoughtful comments? I might as well look at their profile. Oh, they have great art. They're posting every day. Follow." Okay. And so I've seen that. I've seen it works. That's just how it works. It takes a lot of work. There's no shortcut to this. And that's how you organically grow your followership. Pound for pound, buck for buck, whatever, time, minute for minute. I think if you're able to do a YouTube channel, I think you'll have a much better, in the long run, I think you'll have a much better following, a much more stable following who will support your work than if you're just posting on Instagram.
What I think the secret to YouTube is, by the way?
What? Yeah, tell me.
If you're trying to do that. And it would be an insane amount of work. It's not something that I would ever want to do myself. But if you can post daily, and the key is to have something interesting to say, something meaningful, something useful, which is almost impossible. But if you can, those are the channels that grow the fastest. YouTube rewards.
I was listening to an interview with what's his name? I can't remember his name. Caleb something. He grew his YouTube channel to 1 million followers in 3 months. He's not an artist, but he solved a problem. He got something viral and just went with it. And this is a guy, the interview was like, for 7 years, he's been working on YouTube videos, and he started different channels, and he came up with the idea. You've probably seen it. One of these is, "Hey, can I ask how much your rent is in New York City?" And he's just walking down the street. Have you seen those? Yeah. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I pay $3,000 a month." "Oh, cool. Can I see your apartment?" "Yeah, sure. Come on up." And so then he tours the apartment, lays in their bed. That's like one of those things. And then it's done. And what he figured out was, everybody wants to know where somebody lives and how much they're paying, right?
It's funny.
Everybody wants to know that. Whenever you go on a walk down your neighborhood or anything, and you notice a window's open on one of the neighbors' houses, do you kind of just glance in to see what
always
do they have artwork on the wall?
I don't want to get arrested, so no. I don't.
No, well, yeah. You don't go up to the window and peer in with your hands cupped over your face, but there's something very primal there that I think he's tapped into, right? And the first one worked. It went viral to a degree, and he just went with it, rolled with it. And now he gets people contacting him saying, hey, can I, in the DMs, they'll be like, hey, can you come check out mine? I'm really proud of my space and I want to show it off. And so he's just got, he does random ones. He does things that are set up. Even that lady from Shark Tank, Barbara something, I forget her name, but she DM'd him and she's like, hey, you want to come check out my apartment in New York City?
Oh, man.
And I'm getting way off topic here, but the point is, it is possible to grow an audience today if you have a good idea. If you're just a normie, like I'm just rolling up, I'm going to do what I've always done, you're going to get the same results. But if you figure out a way, like there's this other viral guy, photographer, who does the street thing. He'll just say, hey, can I take a portrait of you? I'm a portrait photographer. I'm a street portrait photographer. And then people are like, yeah, and he takes the photos and then he shows like the finished thing and they're remarkable, really, really beautiful stuff. And so these little shorts tell a story. They're like, is he going to get turned down? Are they going to accept it? How's the photo going to turn out? Are they going to love it? And so it's a beginning, middle, and end right there. Same with the apartments. So what do you do with art? Off the top of my head, if I were going to do this thing and I was really motivated and I didn't have a billion other things to do, it would be I'd sit down for a couple days, make 30 YouTube videos, going through all my, these shorts, going through all my old drawings, and just be like, okay, the prompt is dinosaur jetpack motorcycle. I already have that drawing somewhere. I'm pretty sure of it. But I would pretend pulling them out of the hat. You got to fabricate things a little bit, or you can do it for real, whatever. How am I going to make this work? You show the struggle, and then within a minute, you see the final thing. It's entertaining. There's a beginning, middle, and end. You do that consistently, and pretty soon you've got people following you. If you can add in some sort of live element to it, like, I'm going to have my 3-year-old pick the prompt. And, or I'm going to have this random stranger on the street and pick the prompt, something like that. That's a way to like really have some curiosity, like infused into the thing that you're doing.
I'm going to disagree.
Oh, boom.
I'm going to argue.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Maybe it's not even an argue. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, all this stuff sucks. It just sucks. It sucks.
Well,
it
that's
sucks.
because
Jake got in the early. He was in the old west when all the gold was just sitting on the ground, and he came in and collected it all. And he's like, guys, you want to get all this gold? It's on the street. Just come grab it. But all of us latecomers, we heard about the gold. We were on a different coast or something, and then we heard about the gold. We got here. There's no more gold in the street. So I post and I post and I post and I post. And I mean, I agree. I haven't done this little song and dance where I've got to now go interview somebody about something. I got to do this little clever little tap dance. And my Instagram account is stuck, and I post fairly frequently, not every day. I mean, can I be better about it? Absolutely. But at some point, I need to make my artwork, and the growing isn't happening. I tried even boosting posts and stuff like that. And are we at a point of market saturation that unless you come up with that, hey, how much do you pay for your apartment in New York? You got this hook, and that's great if you can do it. But man, it sucks. I just want to say that, and it's
you're right.
Awful.
You're right.
But because you want to create. And you want to put your head down and just create. And that's pretty much what all of us wanted to do. We love putting on our music or putting on a show or whatever we're doing and sinking into the piece that we're working on. And most artists would be happy doing that every day and never having to do social media. I can't tell you how many times we ask, do I have to do social media? We don't want to do it. But there's a reality that a lot of the most successful people,
the growth doesn't happen,
are figuring out a way to do it in a creative way, and they're getting more traction. Like I'm getting sales on my pickleball book already on Amazon because I'm sharing that with my YouTube channel, and I let my YouTube channel die it pretty much, like
Well, you
Lori
weren't
passed
posting, but
away.
the people were still there.
Some of them were there, but I lost a ton of traction, a ton.
Yeah.
And what my goal is I just made a contract. I said I'm going to share a video every week about this new project, and I'm going to share the creation of it, who I'm working with, the marketing, my sales figures, my costs, any aspect of it. And it'll probably last a year, maybe longer, and I'll make updates as I have more information beyond that, so that anyone and it's a small group of people who want to do what I'm doing. I mean, compared to the populace, right? So I'm not going to go viral doing it, but I am going to really help a lot of people, and that really makes me feel good. I love doing it, and there's a lot of people that are, every day on the comments are like, "Thank you so much for doing this. This is so valuable." It's trash to 99.9% of the people on YouTube, 999, but it's gold to 0.0001% of the people, and that's fine. I mean, that's how you build an audience, right?
Yeah,
I guess. I mean, in theory,
the thing is it depends on the work that you're trying to get. It depends on the thing that you're trying to sell, right? So a massive Instagram following doesn't do you any good if you're trying to get a job in the animation industry, or even if you want to get into publishing. The only person you have to really win over is the art director that hires you. Okay? That's one person. You just have to worry about one follower, right? If you want to do an awesome Kickstarter that sells, 3,000 units of something, it really helps to have that massive Kickstarter or massive Instagram following or YouTube following, right? If you want to, for example, sell, I know an artist who's selling cards to gift shops, right? If you want to do that, all you got to win over is 50 gift shops, and then you got 50 accounts, and you're selling enough cards to make a really good either side hustle or maybe it's even a main gig, right? So you really have to figure out what is it you want to do, and if you want to play the Instagram game, you have to pander. You have to pander to that audience.
Got to do the dance. My concern is that the dance doesn't work anymore. Anyway, here's my theory that we should test. We should pick a random person that's pretty good, but it has a small like Mark that we were just looking at, right? Take him. He's got 850 followers. Guide him, do all the advice, and just document how much it grows. And
have him do a case study.
A case study. That's where I'm going with that. I guess that's a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, will it work? Because he's got the work. He's a good artist, and he doesn't have many followers. If he posts every day, his Instagram account is very young. As I was looking through it, it looks like it's 3 to 4 months old. Really. I mean, he's got a couple older ones.
Yeah, Mark, send us an email. It's January. It would be the perfect time. What can you do in a year? And we'll check back in a year.
Let's do the Mark test.
Let me get you guys this. You want to look at someone. I met this guy in little small town Safford, Arizona. His name's Brant Woods. We should probably have him on the show, interview him. And this is a guy who does comics. He is a former SVS. I don't know if he's former. He may be current SVS.
You met him in Safford?
Student.
It's like the bumblebee town, little
It's twice the size of Radiator Springs from Cars, so it's big. It's a bigger town than that, right? No, my in-laws live there, so we visit there every so often. And what did this guy do? How did he kind of make it work as an artist? Go to Brant Woods on Instagram at Brant Woods, 47,000 followers. He really leaned hard on Reels, and his thing is murals. Okay, right now it's the thing he's working on is murals, and he came up with this thing. He said, I'm going to do Inktober. For Inktober, I'm going to do murals. I'm going to do 31 murals, 31 days. Right.
I've seen
and
this
it's a
guy
small
on
town.
Instagram.
we need to have him on and have him tell the story. But what he does is he does these really engaging, captivating reels. Some of them have gone viral. You know,
yeah, I know. That was right away. I was like, I recognize this guy. I've seen him on TikTok.
Yeah, getting 20,000 views, 30,000 views on these. And a mural is a good story. You know, here's this wall. Here it is blank. Here's my design for it. Here's me painting it. Here's the finished thing, right? He's got a 7 million view reel, which that's the one where I was like, dang, that's really good. And it's a surprise bedroom mural. He sent his wife away on a mini vacation or work retreat or something like that. And when she was away, he painted a mural in their bedroom in like the style that she really liked. And she came back and her reaction was like awesome, right? And so that gets sent, that gets shared around, that gets, you know, wives sending it to their husbands. Why don't you do this for me? It gets, you know.
So he's making these little mini stories.
Right.
Is what this is.
And so I talked to him. So my in-laws hired him to do a mural on the side of their building. They have a auto shop. And so I went and helped him one day. We painted it and we talked for like an hour while we were painting it and kind of picked each other's brains. And he was just like, he was just telling me about the mural business and how it's such a great way to, you know, you could be your main thing if you wanted it to, or it could be a good side thing. And so
it's funny. He started in comics. It looks like.
Yeah. So he's got the comics thing going on. I'll get him on. I'm going to contact him. We'll have him on in a couple of months.
Cool.
Well, let's do the case study though. Over a 1 year plan, since it's in January. Let's watch Mark's account because that sounds great. I mean, obviously that's a great story.
But let's watch.
We got to see if Mark wants to even.
Yeah, Mark has to commit. Like it would be like you have to do a year of pain, Mark. Like
I would say, let's issue this challenge to him. Do 300 posts between now and next January. You know, 2023, 300
that
posts.
gives you a few days off.
And see what and just see what it does. See what it does for him.
Our friend, and I'm drawing a blank. I'm so bad at just conjuring names. It's somebody that we know really well.
Good friend
guy.
of ours. We love him.
Anyway, this dude, he posts every day on Instagram, and he gave me some advice, and he's like, I'm like, I don't make enough art. He's like, Will, just go post the same stuff. They don't put it in the same people's feeds all the time. Yeah. Like his thing is post every day. I can't do it. I don't know why. It's not in my DNA to show the same stuff again, but he does. He's the guy that works for, he's done a lot of Transformer stuff for Harper.
That's it.
Derek Loeffner.
Oh, Derek Loeffman.
Yeah.
Yeah, our good old friend Derek.
Yeah.
We had him on
Derek.
Did we have him on the podcast?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I can't remember like who I've just hung out with and talked to on Zoom and who I've actually
I've had him on my YouTube channel
interviewed
too.
On the...
But no, he's like figured out a lot of the Instagram, and he's just like, no, it's easy to post every day because you don't have to post new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So Mark, it's totally doable. We'd love to revisit. Let us know.
What's been cool watching Loish. So Loish is like I'd say Loish and Ross Draws are like the two gold standards of how to do Instagram. Right.
And Jake Parker.
They paint beautiful women. Okay. Doesn't have to be like even sexy. Like I'd say Loish is they're beautiful. Right. And she does really cool, environments and stuff. Ross does cool environments and stuff, right? They're posting consistently Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? They're always posting some sort of reel, not real, but they do reels, but they also do like the stories. So they're just actively doing it. But what's interesting about Loish is I'm a patron of hers. Everything that's posted on Instagram is a month later than her Patreon. So as a Patreon, you're seeing this stuff. She's showing you the process. And so what that tells me is her month later posting, she's not posting like, oh, woke up in the morning, oh, it's Wednesday, I got to do a post. She's scheduling these things out. Like as soon as it's done, it's scheduled to post a month later. It's not tied to her mood. It's very much
it's a business,
like a business type of thing. And she's just consistent with it, you know? So, and these are people who've been doing it consistently for, I would say Lois has been doing this for 20 years, if you count DeviantArt, you know?
Yeah, she was huge on DeviantArt.
Yeah. So if you're 20 something right now, just think, where do I want to be when I'm 40 something, and start doing that now. Like start getting those habits going. Boy, we really beat that horse.
Holy crap. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah. Okay, Brian says 3 months ago I suggested an episode about making comics and comics publishing. Daniel seemed very into the idea. It's something that may happen in the future. An episode about comics and comics making. We should do. Yeah, we've just been doing like question episodes and interviews. Maybe we do a deep dive episode where we just talk specifically. Like, here's how you do a Kickstarter. Here's how you do a children's book. Here's how you do comics.
And I think when you do the comics one, you should have a guest, because it's not my world.
Yeah,
it's
me
not
neither.
Lee's world. So we'll bow out.
What if you guys did a comic?
No.
No.
Get a microphone and stand on a stage.
Let's see. Is there a question here? It's just, is there a recommendation shape for drawing cartoon comic style female torsos? Because he says there's a light bulb for the male torso. There's also the bean and the pillow for drawing toasters.
Torso.
Is there what I do for sort of the female thing is I think of it like, it's hard to describe it without drawing. It might be like essentially an hourglass type of situation where it's just thinner in the middle, wider at both, the top and the bottom, and then you put arms and legs on it. But what's cool about it is when it's got a spine in the middle. So when you bend that spine in the middle, your shoulder and your hip that are on the same side are going to compress and come closer to each other, and on the opposite sides they're going to go farther away from each other. So you have these. Oftentimes, what I'll see people mess up is they'll have
tilt in the same way.
They'll tilt the same way, and you want them going against each other.
That's called contrapposto for all of you art nerds.
Yeah, that always makes me hungry. We talk about
Contrapposto.
Contrapposta. All right, toasters and pastas.
This guy, it's interesting. He says he has a full-time career, a 7-month-old, a wife in med school, and he's still trying to do it. So this is the struggle, man. That's tough.
Oh, we've looked at his artwork before. I remember there was a question earlier because he had some different styles going.
Okay, Christopher Cruz says, finishing up my BFA right now. Currently about to start my thesis class. I have a few ideas for the project, but I'm worried the ideas might be contrived or unoriginal. Any tips or guidance to make this the thesis project stand out? Been moving into just working in ink and coloring digitally. Also, thanks for the planner episode. Work-life balance and scheduling time to draw is something I'm worried about, so it helps a lot. And then he has a link to his website. You know what would really turn heads and stand out as a thesis? I would say, like, if you made an actual product that you could put in market, a finished children's book, a finished graphic novel.
I was going to say the same thing. Like, when he used the word contrived, don't do that. That's like, that is an indulgence that people get to do when they pay a lot of money and they're in school and they make something that they don't learn anything from and that they never use and they never look at again. And I wonder why. Like, make something.
Yeah, I've just looked at his portfolio again. We've reviewed him before. We did a portfolio review like last year or 2 years ago. So yeah, make an actual finished thing. You've got a cool style. You really did clean up your portfolio. And we told him to like take off some stuff and lean into his strengths. So I would say, make a 30-page comic, and get it professionally printed and give a copy to all your all the students and the teachers. And when they come to your show and they see all the artwork on there, they can get a copy, either buy a copy or you give them away or whatever. And, if that's the area that you want to go in and do, I would.
I mean, he's more of a poster kind of artist. I mean, maybe it's a
it could be a
series of
series
posters,
yeah.
or the better choice is book covers.
Book covers.
It's the same market, really. But pick some kind of theme that holds all these things together and then make them unique. I mean, the one ingredient to making something kind of interesting is take something that people have seen before, but then reinvent it. And so do a series of classic book covers from classic stories that everybody knows, but then your own way to do them. And it's amazing when you can lean into that.
It has to be, because if you're going to really knock it out with this thing, then everyone's going to hire you to do that. So if you're not into comics and you do a comic, then you're like, what do? You're going to be turning down all these offers, right?
I would do some sort of book that you could upload to Amazon for their print on demand. That's what I would do. But that's what I'm into right now.
Do you know what I've always wanted to do is like a reskin of like a classic board game. So like, how every 10 years they have to update Clue. They come out with new character designs and all that. I'd love to do like Space Clue, or something like that.
That would be awesome.
Or Sci-Fi Monopoly or something like that. I think that'd be a cool project.
I think people like that, though. He's asking about what kind of project knocks it out of the park. Everything you're saying is like people have an already built-in familiarity with, and then you add your spice on top. And it's just such a satisfying thing to look at that. Whereas if you just created a board game, I might like it, but I don't have a relationship to it. I'm not going to be like, oh, this is so original, because that you're sort of comparing it against the past, which is a great way to come up with something kind of creative, I think. For Christopher, I would worry about doing sequential. It does not look like he is into sequential art in any way. So be careful.
I just saw it. When I said that just off the cuff, I saw the Swamp Thing cover. And I was like, "Oh, it's a comic. Let's
he
roll with
doesn't like
that."
to do the middle. He's like me. I want to do the cover. I don't want to do the rest.
Yeah.
Like the moving characters through space and through a sequence of things.
I see this Godzilla image that he did. There's something like 27 Godzilla films. Do a poster for each one of them.
It'd be fun.
That would be so fun, because every one of them is like this wild take on Godzilla. He fights a new monster every time. It's in a different city or whatever. There's a lot of material.
Or what if you did different movies? He did different movies, but replaced the characters with Godzillas.
There you go. So Titanic and Godzilla sinking. Star Wars, and he's like getting blown up by he's flying a TIE fighter. No.
Here's the thing about being creative. Let's just talk about creativity for a second, because my son had a project. This is a horrible example, but my son had a project where he is auditioning to be an editor at his school, and he's in junior high, so not professional level or anything like that. But so I'm like, what's the concept? And he said, well, we're going to show a sequence of me making Jell-O, and it's going to be edited and all this stuff. And I was like, great. And then I was like, I can't let you do that. I just can't let you do that. It's so boring. Nobody wants to see you making Jell-O. So what the conversation I had with him is the same conversation I'll have with you guys, is what is the unexpected thing? If you can't just list it out, so why is this interesting? Then you're doing something that's contrived, or you're doing something that's been done before, and people are going to be bored just like you are going to be bored with it. And so we came up with the idea of a Jell-O monster. Like, he's in the middle of explaining how to make Jell-O, and this Jell-O monster comes in and he fights this monster, and it's just, and we never cut. And then when he beats up the monster, he goes back and finishes the instructional about the Jell-O.
I love how Lisa, when she was filming it, she's like on the action. And then you come in and attack him, And the action goes off film, and she's still there, and she's like, "Oh, wait, I should be."
Right, she got to follow the action. But it was funny because she's like, wait, because Lisa had no, she's doesn't come from so much of a creative background. So my wife was saying, wait, so he's making Jello, and then a Jello monster comes in, and then you fight. Wait, she's so confused. But I was like, it doesn't matter as long as there's something for people to talk about later. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd rather somebody hate it or love it than not remember it.
Right. Then just be like next.
Right.
So
You can't afford to be forgettable.
Right.
Lee, you give out that advice, yet you can't do that on your Instagram account.
I tried. Did you see my bookmobile today? I posted a new kind of bookmobile. Check out Lee Whitella. If you're
It's
not
easier to
follower.
criticize other people than ourselves.
No, but we made it. Like, you got to just always think, what is the thing that you need to do? I mean, I'm trying to do that in the Instagram. I try to do that in illustrations, but at least you can always say, I'm like, ask yourself, has this been done before? And what is interesting about it? Mm-hmm. And try to bring something unexpected to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Jello monster. If you put a Jello monster in every illustration, you'll get 10 million Instagram.
Your Bookello is good though, or your Bookmobile. Bookmobile's pretty rad.
It's fun.
All right, let's get through some of these other questions.
Yeah. Okay.
I got this next one.
Procreate. Take it, Will.
I was going to do Jeremy Thomas's there.
We already answered Jeremy's.
We did?
We answered his along with
Earlier.
Okay.
Keep
so
up
which one do you want to go for?
There's a
Procreate
Procreate one with
That's not a me question. I don't do color on Procreate, so that's Lee.
Who are we? Whose is it?
Tom has
Tom
a
Mason.
display P3 color profile for Procreate.
When working in Procreate, do you use this color profile or something else as a more standard sRGB mode? Whatever looks good. I mean, at a certain point, he's talking profiles, and I deal with that all the time. So at a certain point, does it look good? If you switch between those modes, does it change it too much? It doesn't really matter what mode you're working in Procreate, unless you're going to print. And if you are going to print, then do not use that display P3 color profile. It's probably going to not print that well because it looks like it's a display profile for your monitor or for a screen. sRGB mode is not a great profile either. So at some point, if you're going to print something, that's the only time you have to worry about a true profile, and you're going to have to go through Photoshop anyway. You're going to switch it to CMYK if you're going to print it and whatnot. So not to get too technical, but either one, if it looks good, it's fine.
That's why I go to Photoshop, because I'm not technical. In troubleshooting something like this, I'd rather die than try to figure it out. So I just go to what works, which is Photoshop.
Right.
But for someone who isn't maybe working in Photoshop at all and wants to figure this out, I wish I could give a better answer. But I think you did good, Lee.
Yeah, if it looks good, it's good.
Okay. Well, O'Rourke
says, is the animation style viable as a professional illustrator thinks?
No.
So
if
it
you're doing
is.
anime.
Yeah, so it's like, what do you want? And that's what I would tell, like when I was teaching at UVU, I would say, well, one, we've decided as a faculty that we're not going to accept work in the anime style. And it would make so many of the students pissed off. And, especially the ones that are like, that's what I do. And what we would try to explain to them is like, look, our job is to help you find your own artistic style, okay? Like you have your own unique fingerprint style inside of you. Our job is to help you coax that out. Right now, you've already put yourself in a lane called anime, a box. And you're like, this is where I want to reside. If you know that that's all you want to do, you don't really need to go to school. Maybe to learn some of the technical stuff, but like you've already got your style. So if you're doing like you were saying, Lee, if you want to just get jobs doing anime and you have a good idea of how to get those jobs, and it's like all I have to do is just get better at doing this, then sure, it's a viable style. But as far as like getting work in children's books or in comics or book covers and stuff like that, it's not going to work, because the only people that will hire you are people that want anime. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think who hires somebody to do anime? And I mean, I guess it depends on where you are. If you're in the United States, this was my challenge. It's funny because we're coming at it from the way that we addressed our class when people wanted to do it. And they do, students come up, they're emulating that style and they want to do it in college. Give me a studio who's hiring in that style in the United States. And if you show me three studios, then or 3 projects or anything, then it's viable. I mean, maybe now with self-publishing, that changes it, but I don't know.
I don't know that market, so I can't really speak to it. I don't think you do either, Lee. We don't really know what's out there, but
so
I bet you'd be hard pressed to find a place in the United States that's selling and producing that kind of artwork. I just think it's a different market. And so if you want to move to Japan or some other country that's doing that and it's a viable product there, well, then the question is, are you going to be able to compete with them? Probably not.
If you were doing amazing anime work, I mean amazing design, every aspect of it, the design, the line work, the color, the story, everything was just amazing. You could probably find work, and you don't have to move to Japan. I mean, like you'd have to advertise. You'd have to advertise to the people who want that kind of work.
You'd have to be the best, though. You'd have to. But here's the easier advice: look at somebody like we were just talking about, Loish. Her style isn't totally out of the anime realm. It looks almost. I mean, you see what I mean? And also Ross Draws. Like there's a kinship there, but they have elevated it. And they have changed it. They have made it their own. And if you can do that, it's a whole different ballgame.
What if I'm, all right, Lee, give me advice. I'm asking this question and I'm like, all I want to do is self-publish my own anime books and upload them to Amazon. So is anime a viable style for me?
It is if the goal is making it and making it available, yes. If the goal is selling it, no.
You guys, I wanted to make Lee agree with me, and he did. So
I didn't. I did not. It was a caveat. There's a caveat. You can make anything you want. If I want to do illustrations out of crochet, and my goal is to make illustrations out of crochet, I can do that. Now, making a living out of crocheting illustrations, that is an entirely different question.
So let me break it down simply here. You have 3 options. If your style is anime style and you're good, you got your fundamentals down, color theory, composition, anatomy and all that, but you choose to draw in the anime style. 3 options is make your own stuff. Like try to build a fan base around your stuff, okay? And sell your own comics or your own animated short films or whatever. So that's option number 1. Option number 2, find the studios, whether it's a game studio or an animation studio or a publisher, comics publisher, something like that hires these that hires people who do that kind of thing, and submit your portfolio and get a job doing that. And number 3, I don't think there's a number 3. I think those are your 2 options, right? Number 3 would be to move to Japan, and there's artists who have done all 3 of those paths that I know who've gone down each one of those paths and have had success, but they are so killer at it. And everybody wants to do anime, but only it's like anything. Everybody wants to do great life drawing. Everybody wants to do great oil painting portraits, but it's really this small percentage that are able to master it to the level that they can really rock on that stuff. And so you just got to work your butt off to get to that point. And if it's not in the cards, if you're not able to do that, then you have to shift, pivot, and figure out where it is you actually fit and what you are capable of doing.
I've been wrong before. I'll tell you this: with if you draw pretty girls in an anime style, you'll probably make a fortune. That's my new stance.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, Lee, you once said that you do not illustrate a picture book for under 30,000 anymore. Maria's curious, how about young readers and chapter books? If you only do the illustration for the cover, how much is your lowest rate on that?
Oh, let me see this. Okay,
Lee doesn't do those.
No, I want to do covers. With my new agent, that's what I'm going to be focusing on.
Like the young readers. those little step into reading books or
Yeah, I'm not going to be doing that. If you only illustrate the cover, so typically, if I just got a straight cover, the rate around for that is can be anywhere from 2,800 to 5,000 for just a cover, for like a YA book or something like that.
Those little readers, by the way, they sell. If some of them, I mean, they have to take off, but some of them they sell hundreds of thousands of copies of. My best paying book to date is Pizza Pat, which I got paid it was $7,000. It went through my agent. I ended up getting like $5,000, 5,250 or something like that. And so it was this little tiny amount, $5,000 for that book. And royalty wise, I think I'm over somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000 now on royalties.
Wow.
And so, I was told early on, like, when you get a chance to do these readers, don't hold out for too much money because they just won't change their budget. I mean, like, they have a set budget, and they're like, "Will you do it for 7,000? No. Okay. Well, will you do it for 7,000? No. You want 9? No, we don't do that.
Right. They're going to find somebody who's going to agree for that price.
So yeah.
Okay.
Are you saying that you should do them and in exchange for a possible payout in royalty?
I did a series of. I did Pizza Pat. I've done like 9 or 10 of them, but I did a series of 7 for Simon Schuster that did not take off, and that was one of those contracts that's like they're all linked together.
Oh no!
So I got paid basically to do them. Like basically you have to pay off the royalties on all of them. You have to earn out on all of them to get any royalties at all.
Gross.
Which you say it's gross, but I think it's fair. Like if you were an entrepreneur, if you were offering that deal to an illustrator, you'd want to do the same thing. You wouldn't want to be paying an illustrator. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying put yourself in their shoes, the publisher's shoes. You would not want to pay the illustrator if you have like 5 losing books that you've lost money on, and one that's done really well. And you're paying the illustrator, but you haven't made any money. You've lost money on the other ones, So that's why they do it.
If I was going to make that deal, I I understand that it's favorable to the publisher to make that deal.
You are so shrewd as a businessman.
It's so unfavorable to the illustrator.
I know
that I wouldn't. If they came back at me, I'd be like, yeah, I can't do that.
You talk about like how much money you save on the contractors that come to your house and stuff, and I'm like.
Oh, I mean, I find the best deal I can, but I have also paid the price for hiring the wrong person. I'll tell you that much.
I'm trying to be the person who's saying what you're thinking at home right now.
Don't take those deals. Don't take a deal that links a bunch of books together. I have had a couple of friends do that, and it doesn't ever really work out.
What if it's a take it or leave it? I mean, like at the time, I needed the money. It was like a $40,000 deal.
Well, there's always like, and there's like 4 or 5 criteria for when to take a job. It's not just like, oh, does it pay much? Oh, it doesn't. Okay, I'm not going to take it. There's create. How much does it move you forward creatively? Are you in a desperate situation? I mean, that's definitely going to change move the needle.
I will say the hard thing on that series was getting I didn't know they were going to send me half the money up front for all 7 books.
Ooh.
And then so they sent me half the money. And then, I get $20,000 for doing nothing, basically. And I was like, I told my wife, like, we need to pay like all of our bills and save this. This needs to go in a separate account because I don't want to work for half price because they held the last half until the 7th book was done, right?
Ooh.
And so, so I was working on like book 5, 6, and 7 for basically. And we didn't have any money, I'm like having to do work that I wasn't getting paid for, but I had the carrot at the end and I got another chunk at the end, but boy, that was tough.
Yeah, that's hard.
So.
Yeah, you guys, good job answering that question. Okay. I love to hear your thoughts on children's book publishing then versus now. Boy, we should do an entire course on that, shouldn't we?
Yeah. I want to play this video for Liz's question.
Do it.
Okay. So hopefully this is loud enough. I'm going to try to put it right where my mic is. Jason Alexander answers Liz's question perfectly. I think then we'll discuss on a TikTok. Okay.
Waiting for that opportunity because you didn't make it yourself. And the tools to make stuff now are available to everybody. You can make a movie on your phone.
Okay.
You really want to be in our business, the business of being an actor. The days of thinking only as an actor are probably over. The most frustrated actors I know are the ones that are waiting for someone to give them the gig. You must make the gig. You must get the writers. You must get the directors. You must get the designers. You must get, if you're going to do it on film, you must get the cinematographers and everybody that makes filmed storytelling happen. If you're doing it on stage, you need those kinds of designers. You build your companies. You build your support systems, and you go out and make stuff. You hire yourself. And if what you're doing is good, you will A, make a living, you will B, be very happy, and C, somebody may just see it and give you an opportunity you couldn't create for yourself. But to sit there and wait for someone to give you the chance happens every day, and there's success stories every day. But the likelihood is you're going to watch the calendar pages turn, waiting for that opportunity because you didn't make it yourself. And the tools to make stuff now are available to everybody. You can make a movie on your phone.
Okay, so I didn't actually read her question.
So the question is, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on children's book publishing then versus now. I know a number of author illustrators and illustrators who are getting less work than in the past. On the flip side, in addition to being an artist, I'm a part-time school librarian and have been a librarian for 15 years. I like to know the content publishing trends, but I'd love to hear from
She says, I feel like I know the content publishing trends, but I'd love to hear from published illustrator side of things.
Yeah. Are there just more illustrators now than 15 years ago? It seems so tough to get a foot in the door. Yeah.
I think there's a lot more.
She also wants to know how many books we illustrate a year. But yeah, like the days of, I think Kramer, or not Kramer, George. I think George is right. It's like there are more people than ever trying to get the same or fewer number of gigs. There are changes in the industry where I would say in the past, publishers published books just for fun, right? Like just for fun. Like that sounds like a fun book. Let's publish it. Now it's more complicated. It's like, does it have the right amount of diversity? Is it teaching the kind of message that we want to teach? And you may not be who the publisher's looking for. That's a possibility. But what he's saying is the tools are there for us to make the thing that we want to make. And it's a lot easier for us than what he's talking about as an actor. You'd have to have a lot of money to hire, to gather a group of people to make a film. But to make a book is so easy now. Mm-hmm. You can make a book on Amazon for free, on print on demand. And what he says, the right person might just see what you've made and hire you because you've already done the thing that you want to do. You're already doing it.
Patrick Willems is a YouTuber I follow. He makes he's a filmmaker, went to film school, but his YouTube channel is film criticism. So he just reviews films. He's excellent at it. And he makes short films as well, right? And I remember a Q&A, it was something similar to this. And he's like, the reason I make short films, and he just made a feature-length film that he self-funded through Patreon and through, whatever freelance work he was getting and saved up. And he says, the reason I do that is because nobody will hire you to do something you haven't done. And And so you want to make a children's book, go make a children's book and show that as a portfolio, or make a collection of illustrations that show you can make a children's book. And I agree with that. Like there is, if you want to be like the solopreneur, entrepreneur type of person, you've got to do a lot of stuff on your own. If you want this to be like a side thing that maybe takes off, definitely keep that day job, work on it on the side, keep submitting, keep going for it, putting your stuff out there. But I don't know that you can have really broad, massive success unless you're all in on this, unless you're like really going to town and making the things and doing the things and putting stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that even if you're going to go the traditional publishing route, the one good thing that making your own project at least once does for you is it gives you an appreciation for the book, your publisher's side of things, how much it costs to print something, how hard it is to proof something, all the steps, where just storing it, sending it, shipping it, all the stuff gives you a different appreciation for getting normal kind of publishing jobs. And what it's done for me, I've submitted quite a few stories to publishers and been at different stages of getting something acquired. And I've never had my writing get acquired yet. It always, something happens right at the end. I don't make it or whatever. But I can look back on those and think, I don't know if I was all in on those stories or not. I made some stories I thought were cute, and I made some images I thought went with them pretty well. But was I all in on them? And now I'm thinking not, because here's my new take on being a traditional publisher, working with traditional, clients. The book that I submit, I'm not going to submit it unless I'm ready to publish it too. Like, would I invest in it? Would I pay to have it printed and do all the stuff? Because I'm going to. If the next book that I present, if it doesn't get picked up by a traditional publisher, I am going to produce it. And it's a different level of commitment when you're like, oh, my money's on the line. So, just dabbling in all this stuff, I think you do got it. I think you do have to make your own stuff. And in addition to submitting to the traditional markets as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
The last question she had in there was, how many books do you illustrate per year? For my speed, I can illustrate 4. I would only illustrate 1. I've done years where, I had 3-year stretch where I did that pace, 3 or 4 books a year, and I was exhausted. Mm-hmm. So you got to be careful about burnout.
I'll probably do 1.5 this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're on a series, and so that's a little bit different, and it's
so much easier too.
Yeah, so much easier.
Yeah, and I might even get 2 done this year. There's a good chance. I've already written the one that I'm going to illustrate. I mean, I illustrated one right at the end of last year, and I've already written, and now I'm in the editing stage, and I've already planned out my next 4 books. So, yeah, it's easy. The series is way easier and strategically more better.
More better.
Strategically,
quite
more
the
better
writer.
for marketing.
It's advantageous.
It's advantageous to.
It's more better
to be better at making. Well, so the thing is, one book can help sell the next.
Right. Mm-hmm. Once you get going, that snowball. Once that snowball's moving, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Do you guys have any Kidlit hot takes? Let's each do one.
I do have one. This is a good one. Mm-hmm. Fresh one. In the past 7 years or so, there's been a trend for stories and concepts being bought by publishers that have no story and no main character. They're called concept books, and they're very, very abstract. Like the first page will say, I like having pancakes. And the next page will say, and we like swimming in summer. And the whole book goes like that. There's no characters. There's no, I mean, things are happening, but there's nothing, it's not a story. And I got 7 of those offers in a row, 7 in a row, and where there's no character and no story. And talking to my new agent, we are seeing the pendulum swing back a little bit, and stories are starting to come back into favor.
But Lee, you know that there's a joke in there somewhere, right?
What?
About how you're the magnet for saying nothing?
I might be. Because I did a concept book, like just like we talked about on the show. I did a concept book, and all of a sudden I'm concept guy,
Right.
Concept book guy.
That's really what it is if you knocked it out of the park with this Pretty World. What is it called?
Pretty Planet.
Pretty
Yeah.
Planet. And
man.
so that just got on everybody's radar, and they're like, he's the guy.
Yeah, we don't have a story. We don't have characters. Here's my question is, how did that get purchased at the publishing house? Like they're sitting on it going, okay, we got no story. We got no characters. We need somebody who can come up with something. Why did that get acquired? But my agent did say that that's what they were seeing too. Like there's a huge majority of stories that were like that. And so they're coming out, they're moving back to story based, which is good because it's a lot more satisfying for us, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. What's your hot take, Will?
I got nothing.
I'll tell you my hot take. And,
What's your hot take?
And I can only do this because you're only supposed to punch up, right? You never punch down. Chris Van Allsburg does not do good faces.
His characters are rough anyway.
Yeah. He's an environments guy. He's an environments guy, which is good because his books are all about the ambiance, the
big space,
mood, the atmosphere.
Have you guys looked at this? I was talking to David Hone about this. If you go through the Polar Express, there's barely any characters in there.
Right.
Right.
I mean, it's like 3 pages of characters out of a 32-page book. It's all just big scenes with the trains, which we were talking earlier in the podcast about playing to your strengths.
Yeah.
And he's definitely playing to his strengths.
Oh yeah. All right. And
That's your take? That what kind of a take is that?
That's my hot take.
Okay,
It's
so
hot.
the take is you can still be a successful illustrator if you can't do good children or faces.
There it is. Thanks
What do
for
I do?
clarifying that for me.
What do I do if there's a book series that has made millions of dollars and I want to talk about it, but I can't because all I have to say is disparaging comments about the illustrations. I can't do it. I teased it on my YouTube channel. Yeah, I know. You're more brave than I am.
Is the illustrator just not doing their job very well?
So here's the thing. There's a franchise of book series that's been around for probably 3 decades now and still going strong, right? It's like if you do an Amazon search, or not an Amazon, if you do a Google search for popular children's books, it comes up. At least it did for me. I shared it on my YouTube channel. I'm like, it's one of these books. That's as close as I could get.
It's Pete the Cat.
No.
Okay.
Don't guess though, because eventually you're going to say it. But the thing is, the story is amazing. Like the idea is one of those ideas that you wish you thought of because it seems so obvious, and it's amazing, and kids freaking love it. The illustrations are horrible, and it's interesting because I've talked about it before on my YouTube channel that you can be an illustrator. Like I think what happens is,
can you text me this? Because I have to know who it is. Just text it to me.
I'll text it to you guys so you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll disagree.
If I disagree, I'm going to say it because then we have something to talk about. I tend to agree with your aesthetic. So I can't imagine you hating something and me being like, no, it's great.
It doesn't do this person any good to hear this. It would only wreck their day, So I don't want to do that at all. But look it up, and like you could interchange. You could plug any other illustrator in there, and it would have been successful. And
No, it's bad.
And the thing that I find sad about properties like this that do really well in the marketplace with bad illustration is that it gives other illustrators, especially like the ones that go to SVWI, kind of the what do I want to say? The moxie to go, well, why do I have to learn to draw well? Like look at this stuff right here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's bad. I mean,
And it's not.
It's a good point.
It's not the worst stuff you've ever seen. I'm not trying to say that.
It's
what I'm
serviceable.
saying is it's serviceable.
I don't know.
And it worked because the idea was so good.
Mm-hmm.
But any illustrator could have illustrated that book and it would have done really well. And that illustrator's
you're right.
made millions of dollars.
Millions.
millions
sure.
over the years. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good hot take.
There you go. Here's my hot take.
What do I do
All
with
right.
that information?
This is a long episode. We got one question left.
We are just all over the place today. We haven't seen each other in a little while, so maybe we're just like
Yeah.
socialization.
I got the last question answered, by the way.
Yeah. What are 3 of the most important things to keep in mind for Kickstarter that most people don't think of? Let's each come up with one and call it good.
Easy breezy on that one.
Okay, Will.
This is from Kay Atano.
Mm-hmm.
What are the 3 most important things to keep in mind for Kickstarter that most people don't think of?
Yeah.
I got 100 of them in here. This is a checklist book that I made.
He's holding up the complete Kickstarter
Complete
playbook.
Kickstarter
So
playbook,
there's a
yeah.
ton of info in that. One of the biggest things I think is distribution after the Kickstarter and keeping that. One of the fallacies I had early on about Kickstarter was that that's where you make the money. And you see a Kickstarter that made 100,000. Oh, that's a successful one. And you see one that made 15,000. That's not as successful. I viewed that as the success of the project, but really finally it took, maybe you guys already know this, but it took me a while because I'm dense. That Kickstarter, as long as you fund the making of the thing, that's all Kickstarter is made for. And then you have the thing to sell. That's the journey. So you need to understand that if you get it funded in Kickstarter, what happens next? And if you have a great selling platform or distribution channel for the product, once it's made, then the Kickstarter is a success. It doesn't have to be $1 million Kickstarter to be a success. It just has to get made. So just understand that dynamic.
That's one thing. I mean, like, if you, this is a really
it's great to make money.
That's a complicated process because there are Kickstarters where the artist is like, I just want to kind of be able to take home maybe a fourth or a third of what was raised, and if you raise $100,000 and they're able to keep, $30,000 of profit for themselves. Then they don't want to print extra product. They just want to satisfy their Kickstarter
just make the
people
thing
and walk away. That's actually a really viable way of thinking of it because if you use some of your Kickstarter fees to print a lot of extra units of whatever it is you made, you may not be able to sell those later on. And you may find that you spent a lot of what would have been profit on product that has to be destroyed later on, and that's happened to a lot of people. It's
true, but to add to that dynamic, though, the Kickstarter process, I don't think people realize how many little vampire bats are siphoning off. You see this great Kickstarter; it made $70,000. How much did the artist get to keep after everybody got paid at the end? It's so much less than you would think.
Right, nothing. Some don't make any money at all. Yeah,
right.
Yep.
Where you make the big money is after the fact because now the books are made or whatever the product is made, and then your markup or how much you make per unit is your costs have already been taken care of. Everything you sell after the Kickstarter is profit, and so
but you have to be set up like you said, Lee. You have to be set up with an online store you got
to be able to sell it in some way.
Yeah. Like we did with the little book. I raised $40,000 on that Kickstarter, was able to keep about $15,000 in profit, and then we ended up with 2,000 books that we later sold at shows. And I never did the calculations on exactly what we made on that, but we marked them up a lot higher than what they were on the Kickstarter. And because we didn't have a product cost at that point, because Kickstarter paid for the product, it was pure profit. So 2,000 books, and we were selling them at $35 per book. So whatever that is, it was a chunk of money.
All right. My
like
one thing to keep in mind is you do not have to have a video to have a successful Kickstarter. And a lot of times people think, that's for me for a while, that was like my hang up. Like, shoot, I got to do a video too. I'm not great at video. I got to find a guy to do a video or spend time and get the right camera and all that stuff. Sometimes a video can actually make it worse if you're not good at video.
It can. I think if you don't have the money to hire a videographer, I like the video. But I agree with you. You don't have to have one to be successful. But the way I am, I want to know who the creator is. I want to know something about them. And I think the mistake people make is they spend too much time making a video that doesn't grip, that doesn't matter, just waste time and money.
Yeah.
I would love to see a short 30-second video or a minute-long video of the creator going, this has been a lifelong dream of mine. This is what I've been doing with my life. This is why I can do this project now, why I have the skills to do it. And if I get funded, this will be my dream come true. And I think people love to get behind someone like that, especially if the project has skills. And you could do that on your iPhone, you know. I think you go low tech on your video or high tech, but you don't do the middle. And like I said, without going into all the mistakes people make on videos, people try to get clever and funny when they're not comedians. That's a mistake. Like, just be you.
Right.
Just be you. So easy.
Yeah. Being genuine and showing that you have, you know, just an ounce of passion for something.
Don't beg.
Goes a lot.
Don't beg. Hey, please fund my project. Don't beg. Say why. Tell why you're doing this. Why you're excited about it, and why it's been your dream for your whole life. Like, that's, people get into, they buy people, right? That's what we buy when we buy stuff. We buy people, right?
Yep. And I think that is it, because we are out of time. Should we wrap it up?
We should wrap it up.
Let's wrap.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. 3-Point Perspective is made possible by SVSLearn.com, where becoming a great illustrator starts. And today's episode specifically is made possible by our patrons. We want to thank everybody who signed up for that and appreciate the support. Your hosts are Will Terry, Lee White, and Jake Parker. You guys know where to find us. That's why you're here. And we just want to give shout outs and thanks to Daniel Tu, our podcast producer. Also, keeper of the curriculum, Austin Shirtliff, Shownotes Wrangler, Lily Howell, and Chief Operations Officer, Lisa Fott. Now, go draw something.